Step away from the mat, old man. You're too old to fight.
Trevor Vance blocked Elijah's path and smirked at the students watching.
You hear me? This isn't a place for people who need help tying their shoes.
Elijah stayed still.
I'm only here to watch.
Trevor laughed and slapped the wall beside him.
Watch from the parking lot, then. You're making my academy look like a retirement home.
Don't put your hands on me.
Elijah's voice stayed low. Trevor shoved 2 fingers into Elijah's chest.
Or what? You'll complain to your nurse?
The room went quiet. Trevor leaned closer.
One push, and you'll be on the floor begging somebody to call an ambulance.
Elijah didn't flinch. Trevor had no idea the quiet man in front of him was a legendary Marine who had spent a lifetime dropping dangerous men before they even saw him move. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead at Iron Way Martial Arts Academy, casting harsh shadows across the worn blue mats. Friday night meant open sparring, and the converted warehouse space hummed with nervous energy. Parents lined folding chairs against the brick walls, phones out, ready to capture their kids' moments of triumph or embarrassment. Students stretched and shadow-boxed, stealing glances at the center mat where Trevor Vance held court. Elijah Brooks stood near the back wall, his weathered hands clasped behind him. His gray hair was cut military short, and his brown skin showed the deep lines of a man who'd seen too much sun and carried too much weight. At 60, he moved with careful precision, each step deliberate. His dark eyes stayed fixed on the spectacle unfolding before him. Trevor commanded the space like a carnival barker. 32 years old, built lean and athletic, he wore his black belt like a crown. His GI top hung open, showing off his chest, and his voice boomed across the academy as he addressed his phone mounted on a tripod. "What's up, Iron Way warriors? Friday night fight night is live." Trevor's grin was all teeth and ego. "Who's ready to see some real martial arts action?" The live stream chat exploded with fire emojis and cheering comments. Trevor's follower count had been climbing steadily, each humiliating video drawing more viewers hungry for drama. Dana Whitfield watched from behind the front desk, her manicured fingers typing rapidly on her laptop. At 43, she dressed like success even when the bank account said otherwise. Her blazer was pressed, her smile practiced, and her eyes constantly calculating. The upcoming sponsor showcase next month could save Iron Way from bankruptcy, but only if Trevor kept generating buzz. "Remember, everyone," Dana announced, her voice cutting through the chatter. "Next month's showcase will determine our future partnerships. Tonight's energy needs to carry forward." Jordan Ramirez sat cross-legged on the mat's edge, his thin frame folded in on itself. At 17, he looked younger, all knees and elbows and nervous energy. His brown eyes darted between Trevor and the exit, calculating escape routes he'd never have the courage to use. For 3 months, Trevor had used him as a punching bag during demonstrations, always careful to frame it as teaching opportunities. Trevor selected his first victim, a stocky 14-year-old named Mike, who tried to refuse. "Come on, Mike. Don't make me look bad in front of my online family." Trevor's laugh had sharp edges. "Just a friendly demonstration." Mike shuffled onto the mat, his face pale. Trevor danced around him, throwing light strikes that gradually became harder. Each impact drew winces from the crowd and delighted comments from the live stream. "See how he's dropping his guard?" Trevor narrated, landing a solid body shot that doubled Mike over. "This is what happens when you don't listen to instruction." The parents shifted uncomfortably, but nobody spoke up. Iron Way was the only martial arts school in Millbrook, and Trevor's credentials were real, even if his methods were questionable. Elijah watched the performance with the stillness of deep water. He'd come here because Marcus had trained in this same space 8 years ago, back when the previous owner ran it with dignity and respect. Tonight was the anniversary of his son's death, and Elijah had nowhere else to feel close to him. Trevor finished humiliating Mike and scanned the room for his next target. His eyes swept past nervous students, anxious parents, and landed on the quiet figure against the back wall. "Well, well," Trevor's voice dropped into theatrical confusion. "Looks like we got someone who took a wrong turn." The livestream chat immediately picked up on his shift in focus. Comments flooded in asking who the old man was. Trevor's grin widened as he read them. Jordan's stomach clenched. He'd seen that look before. Trevor was about to make someone's night miserable, and the old man in the corner had no idea what was coming. Dana looked up from her laptop, sensing opportunity. Controversy drove engagement, and engagement attracted sponsors. "I think the senior center must be closed tonight," Trevor announced, stepping off the mat. His bare feet slapped against the cold concrete as he walked directly toward Elijah, his voice carrying across the suddenly quiet academy. "Hey there, Grandpa. You lost?" The live stream exploded with laughing emojis. Trevor stopped 3 feet away from Elijah, close enough that his voice would carry clearly to his phone's microphone. His chest puffed out with practiced arrogance, feeding off the crowd's nervous laughter. "You're too old for this." The room held its breath. Trevor's smile stretched wider as he fed off the attention. "No, seriously," he continued, his voice rising for the benefit of his live stream. "What's an old black dude doing lurking around a martial arts academy? You looking for your grandson or something?" Several parents exchanged uncomfortable glances. Jordan felt his face burn with second-hand embarrassment. This was crossing lines that shouldn't be crossed. Elijah remained perfectly still, his hands clasped loosely behind his back. His voice came out steady and quiet. "I'm just watching, son. Could you please lower your voice?" Trevor barked out a laugh that echoed off the walls. "Lower my voice? This is my academy, old man. I'll talk however I want." He turned slightly toward his phone, playing to the camera. "Check this out, guys. We got ourselves a confused senior citizen who thinks he can tell me what to do in my own place." The live stream chat exploded with comments. Dana's eyes lit up as she watched the viewer count climb past 300 and keep rising. Controversy meant engagement. Engagement meant sponsor attention. "Listen, Grandpa," Trevor said, stepping closer. "I don't know what nursing home you wandered out of, but this ain't bingo night. This is a real martial arts academy for real fighters. Not old folks who probably can't even remember what they had for breakfast." A few nervous chuckles rippled through the crowd, but most of the students looked deeply uncomfortable. Mike, still catching his breath from his earlier humiliation, stared at the floor. Jordan clenched his fists, wishing he had the courage to speak up. Elijah's expression never changed. "Young man, I'd appreciate it if you'd step back and give me some space." "Oh, you'd appreciate it?" Trevor's voice dripped with mock concern. "Well, I'd appreciate it if you took your old bones somewhere else. This is a place for athletes, not geriatrics, who probably need help getting out of bed." He reached out and grabbed Elijah's shoulder, his fingers digging into the fabric of the older man's plain gray shirt. "Maybe I should help you find the door, Pops." The room went dead silent except for the hum of the ventilation system and the soft beeping of phone notifications from Trevor's live stream. Elijah looked down at Trevor's hand on his shoulder, then back up at Trevor's face. His voice remained calm, but something had shifted in his posture. "I'm going to ask you once not to put your hands on me again." Trevor's grin turned predatory. He tightened his grip and gave Elijah a sharp shove backward. "Or what? You gonna call the police? Report me to your social worker?" Elijah stumbled back a step, his knee buckling slightly. The movement made him look frail, vulnerable. Trevor's confidence soared as he sensed weakness. "That's what I thought," Trevor said, turning back toward his audience. Just another old... He never finished the sentence. Trevor lunged forward, his hands reaching to grab Elijah by both shoulders, intending to push him toward the exit in full view of his cameras. It would be perfect content. The young, strong instructor physically removing a confused old man from his academy. But Elijah wasn't there anymore. The movement happened so fast that most of the audience missed it entirely. One moment, Trevor was charging forward with cruel confidence. The next moment, his right arm was twisted behind his back, his balance was completely gone, and he was sailing through the air. He hit the mat face first with a sound like a heavy bag dropping. The impact drove the air from his lungs in a sharp wheeze. Before he could even process what had happened, a knee pressed gently but firmly between his shoulder blades, and his twisted arm was held in a position that made any movement impossible without serious pain. Trevor tried to push himself up with his free arm. The pressure increased just enough to make him gasp and stop struggling. The entire academy was frozen. Parents stared with their mouths open. Students sat motionless on the benches. Dana's laptop had gone completely silent. Even the live stream chat seemed shocked into stillness. Elijah knelt beside Trevor's prone form, his breathing steady and controlled. There was no anger in his face, no satisfaction. Just the calm focus of someone who had done exactly what was necessary and nothing more. He held Trevor there for exactly 3 seconds, long enough to make the point clear. Then he released the hold and stood up slowly, his joints protesting the sudden movement. Trevor lay on the mat for several heartbeats, stunned and gasping. When he finally pushed himself up to his hands and knees, his face was flushed red with humiliation and confusion. Elijah looked around the silent room, making brief eye contact with each shocked face. His voice carried clearly in the stillness, respectful but firm. Respect comes before combat. The parking lot gravel crunched under Elijah's worn boots as he walked slowly toward his truck. The Georgia night air was thick and humid, carrying the sound of muffled voices from inside Ironway's glass doors. Students pressed their faces against the windows, whispering and pointing at the old man who had just humiliated their instructor. Elijah's knee throbbed with each step. The sudden movement on the mat had aggravated old injuries, but he kept his pace steady and his face calm. Behind him, the academy's fluorescent lights cast long shadows across the empty parking spaces. "Sir, wait up!" Elijah turned to see Jordan jogging toward him, glancing nervously over his shoulder at the building. The teenager's face was flushed with excitement and fear. "I just wanted to say thank you," Jordan said, keeping his voice low. "What you did in there? Nobody's ever stood up to Trevor like that." Elijah studied the boy's earnest face. Jordan reminded him of Marcus at that age, eager, vulnerable, carrying too much weight on thin shoulders. "You don't need to thank me," Elijah said quietly. "Just go home. Stay out of trouble." "But you showed everyone that he's not—" "Jordan." Elijah's voice was firm but not unkind. "Whatever happens next, you keep your head down. Don't make yourself a target." The boy's face fell slightly, but he nodded. "Yes, sir." As Jordan walked back toward the building, Elijah heard Trevor's voice exploding from inside the academy, loud enough to carry through the walls. "He attacked me without warning. That old bastard came in here looking for a fight. I was just talking to him, trying to be friendly, and he jumped me like some kind of psycho." Elijah shook his head and continued toward his truck. Through the glass doors, he could see Trevor gesticulating wildly at Dana, his face red with rage and embarrassment. Several students stood nearby, their expressions uncertain. "This is assault!" Trevor's voice cracked with indignation. "I want him arrested! I want him banned! Nobody puts their hands on me in my own academy!" Dana's response was too quiet to hear, but Elijah watched her grab Trevor's arm and pull him toward her office in the back of the building. Her face was tight with controlled panic. Inside the office, Dana slammed the door and immediately started barking orders at her assistant. Save every camera angle from tonight, every single one. Check the security system, check the live stream archives, check anyone's phone who might have recorded. I want all the footage before this gets out. Trevor paced behind her, still seething. Did you see how he moved? Nobody that old should be able to— Shut up, Dana snapped. Let me think. But it was already too late. In the main gym area, a 17-year-old named Marcus Johnson held his phone steady, uploading a clear video of the entire confrontation. He'd been recording Trevor's usual Friday night show when the old man stepped in. The footage was perfect. It showed Trevor's escalating aggression, his physical contact, and then the lightning-fast takedown that left him flat on the mat. By the time Elijah reached his apartment at Magnolia Arms, his phone was buzzing constantly. He pulled into the small parking lot of the aging complex, noting the flickering streetlight that maintenance never seemed to fix. His apartment was on the second floor, a cramped one-bedroom with thin walls and older appliances. Elijah unlocked the door and stepped into the familiar silence that had surrounded him for 3 years. The living room was sparse but clean. A worn couch faced an old television. Military medals sat in a simple frame on a shelf, gathering dust. On the small dining table, Elijah carefully placed a framed photograph. Marcus, in his firefighter uniform, smiling beside Elijah in marine dress blues. His phone buzzed again. Then again. Elijah ignored it, moving to the kitchen to heat up leftover coffee. But the buzzing continued, insistent and frequent. Finally, curiosity got the better of him. The notifications were overwhelming. Missed calls, text messages, social media alerts. Someone had posted the video, and it was spreading fast. Veteran Pride 88. This old Marine just schooled a punk instructor. Respect. Martial arts fan. Trevor got what he deserved. Don't mess with our elders. Georgia vets. This is what happens when you disrespect a warrior. Comment after comment praised Elijah's restraint and skill. Strangers called him a hero, a legend, a role model. For the first time in years, people spoke his name with admiration instead of pity. Across town, Dana sat alone in her dark office, the viral video glowing on her laptop screen. The view count climbed rapidly. 50,000, 100,000, 200,000. Trevor's humiliation was becoming entertainment for millions. She watched the footage again, studying every angle. Then she picked up her phone and began making calls. We control the story by morning. Saturday morning, sunlight filtered through the thin curtains of Elijah's apartment, but he had barely slept. His phone sat silent on the nightstand after he'd finally turned it off around 3 in the morning. The notifications had been relentless. Reporters, bloggers, strangers wanting interviews about the Marine versus Bully video that was dominating social media. The sharp knock on his door came at 8:30. 3 quick raps, followed by a familiar voice. Dad? It's Maya. Please, open up. Elijah pulled on a Marine's t-shirt and opened the door. Maya Brooks stood in the hallway, her nurse scrubs wrinkled from a night shift, dark circles under her worried eyes. She held her phone in one hand and a bag of groceries in the other. Have you seen what's happening online? She asked, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. Some of it. Elijah closed the door behind her. People seem upset. Maya set the groceries on his small kitchen counter and pulled up videos on her phone. Upset? Dad, you're trending on every platform. Look at this. She showed him clip after clip. Veterans sharing their own stories of being disrespected. Martial arts experts analyzing his technique. News anchors debating whether Trevor deserved what happened to him. This is good, right? Elijah asked quietly. people understand what really happened. Maya's expression darkened. It was good. Until about 2 hours ago. She swiped to a new video, an official statement from Ironway Martial Arts Academy. Dana Whitfield stood behind a polished desk, her business suit perfectly pressed, her voice calm and professional. Yesterday evening, an elderly man attended our academy's open training session, Dana said into the camera. Without warning or provocation, this individual attacked one of our certified instructors, endangering the safety of students and families present. That's not what happened, Elijah said, his voice tight. I know, Maya replied. But watch this. The video cut to security footage from the gym. But something was wrong. The footage started after Trevor had already made contact with Elijah. It showed Elijah grabbing Trevor and throwing him to the mat, but none of the verbal harassment or the initial shove. Without context, it looked like an unprovoked assault. We are reviewing our security protocols to prevent future incidents, Dana continued. Ironway Martial Arts Academy has always been a safe space for families, and we will not tolerate violence from anyone, regardless of their military background. Maya swiped again. Trevor appeared on screen, sitting in what looked like a hospital room, his wrist wrapped in a white bandage. His eyes were red, his voice shaky. I was just doing my job, teaching students, Trevor said, dabbing at his eyes with a tissue. This man came in angry, looking for trouble. When I tried to de-escalate, he just snapped. I've never experienced violence like that. I thought he was going to seriously hurt me. The interviewer asked if he planned to press charges. I don't want to ruin anyone's life, Trevor replied, his voice breaking. But people need to know that not all veterans come home stable. Some of them carry anger that can explode without warning. I just hope he gets the help he needs. Elijah's hands clenched into fists. He's lying. Everything he just said is a lie. I know that, Maya said. But the internet doesn't. Look at the comments now. The praise from Friday night had transformed into suspicion and hostility. People questioned Elijah's mental health, his military record, his motives for being at the gym. Some called him a dangerous old man who should be locked up before he hurts someone else. Maya sat beside him on the couch, her voice gentle but firm. Dad, I need you to promise me something. Don't get pulled deeper into this mess. Don't do interviews. Don't respond online. Don't try to defend yourself publicly. It'll only make things worse. Elijah stared at the photo of Marcus on his dining table. His son had always told him to stand up to bullies, to protect people who couldn't protect themselves. But now, the bullies had lawyers and cameras and the power to twist truth into lies. What if I just let them win? He asked quietly. Then you stay safe, Maya said, and that's what matters most to me. Across town, in his small bedroom in a subdivision house, Jordan Ramirez sat staring at his laptop screen. He'd watched Dana's statement 3 times, his stomach churning with each viewing. He'd been there. He'd seen Trevor's cruelty, his aggressive escalation, his complete disrespect for the older man. But the edited footage made Mr. Brooks look like the aggressor. The lies were spreading faster than the truth ever could. Jordan thought about all the times Trevor had humiliated younger students, forcing them into sparring sessions they weren't ready for. Just 2 months ago, a 15-year-old named Kyle had suffered a concussion when Trevor pushed him too hard during a demonstration. Dana had dismissed the parents' complaints, claiming it was a normal training accident. His phone buzzed with notifications from classmates sharing the viral videos, most of them siding with Trevor now that the full story had emerged. Jordan felt sick knowing the truth while watching lies take over. That evening, as darkness settled over Millbrook, Jordan stuffed his backpack with files he'd been collecting for months. Incident reports Dana had buried, photos of injured students, recordings of Trevor's cruel comments when he thought no one was listening. His hands shook as he walked up the stairs to Elijah's apartment. The hallway smelled of old carpet and cooking grease. He raised his fist to knock, then hesitated. If he did this, there would be no going back. Dana and Trevor would know exactly who had betrayed them. But if he stayed silent, the lies would win. Jordan knocked on the door, carrying his backpack full of gym files and fear. Elijah opened the door to find Jordan shifting his weight from foot to foot, clutching a worn backpack against his chest. The kid's face was pale, his eyes darting between Elijah and Maya, like he expected someone to chase him down the hallway. "Jordan?" Elijah stepped aside. "What are you doing here?" "I need to tell you something," Jordan said, his voice barely above a whisper. "About what really happens at Iron Way." Maya looked up from the couch, her nurse instincts immediately reading the teenager's distress. "Come in, sweetheart. You look like you're about to pass out." Jordan entered the small apartment, his sneakers squeaking against the linoleum. He set his backpack down carefully, like it contained explosives. "Mr. Brooks, what they're saying about you online, it's all lies." "I know," Elijah said simply. "But lies spread faster than truth. Not just about Friday night." Jordan's hands trembled as he unzipped the backpack. "About everything. Trevor's been bullying students for months, not training them, hurting them. And Dana lets it happen because she's scared of losing sponsors." Maya leaned forward. "What kind of hurting?" Jordan pulled out a manila folder stuffed with papers. "Trevor makes kids spar when they're not ready. He calls it toughening up. But really, he just likes watching people get beat down. Especially the quiet ones. The ones who won't fight back." Elijah's jaw tightened, but his voice stayed calm. "Why hasn't anyone reported this?" "Because Dana pressures everyone to stay quiet." Jordan's words came faster now, like a dam bursting. "She tells parents that martial arts is supposed to be tough. She says if their kids can't handle it, maybe they should try chess club instead. And she threatens to ban families if they complain too much." Maya stood up, her face flushed with anger. "That's abuse, pure and simple." Jordan nodded frantically. "There's this kid, Caleb Price, 15 years old. 2 months ago, Trevor made him spar with a brown belt for one of those live stream challenges. Caleb kept saying he wasn't ready, but Trevor called him a coward in front of everyone." Elijah sat down heavily in his recliner. "What happened?" "Caleb got hit so hard, he threw up right there on the mat. Then he passed out." Jordan's voice cracked. His mom rushed him to the hospital. "Concussion. The doctor said he could have died if it was any worse." "Dear God," Maya whispered. Dana made the whole thing disappear from the records. She told Caleb's family that if they talked to anyone, she'd sue them for defaming the academy. She said no one would believe their word against a professional instructor's reputation. Elijah stared at the folder in Jordan's hands. "You have proof of this?" Jordan opened the folder, revealing photos, printed emails, and handwritten notes. "I started keeping track after Caleb got hurt. I was scared I'd be next." He pulled out a photo of a bruised teenager. "This is Kyle Morrison from last month, and this is Sarah Wu from 3 weeks ago. Trevor calls it character building." Maya looked at the photos and covered her mouth in horror. These weren't training injuries. These were the results of systematic intimidation. Elijah studied the evidence quietly. His Marine training kicked in, analyzing patterns and connections. "Why are you showing me this, son?" "Because after Friday night, Trevor's planning something worse." Jordan's voice dropped to a whisper. "He's telling everyone you made him look weak. He wants to use the controversy to get more attention. He's planning to challenge other weak people online. Seniors, disabled veterans, anyone he thinks will make him look tough." "That sick bastard," Maya muttered. Jordan nodded. Dana's encouraging it. She says the viral attention is bringing in new memberships. They don't care who gets hurt, as long as the money keeps coming. Elijah sat in silence for a long moment. Part of him wanted to close the door and forget everything. He'd spent 3 years avoiding conflict, avoiding responsibility, avoiding the pain that came with caring about anything beyond his own grief. But then he looked at the photos again. These kids trusted adults to protect them, just like Marcus had trusted his fire department colleagues to have his back. Adults had failed both times. Maya watched her father-in-law's expression change. The defeated exhaustion was hardening into something sharper, something purposeful. She recognized that look from the stories Marcus used to tell about his father's Marine days. "I'm not a crusader anymore, Jordan," Elijah said finally. "I'm too old and too tired to save the world." Jordan's shoulders slumped in disappointment. "But I can gather facts," Elijah continued, his voice gaining strength. "I can ask questions. I can make sure the truth gets heard, even if nobody wants to listen." Maya felt her heart race. "Elijah, be careful. These people have already shown they'll twist anything to protect themselves. Then we make sure there's nothing left to twist." Elijah stood up and walked to his kitchen drawer. He pulled out an old Marine notebook, its green cover faded and worn. "We do this right. Legal, documented, airtight." Jordan's eyes brightened with hope. "You'll help?" "I'll gather the facts," Elijah repeated. "Nothing more, nothing less." He opened the notebook to the first blank page and wrote 3 names in careful block letters: Trevor Vance, Dana Whitfield, Caleb Price. Sunday morning light filtered through the old oak trees outside First Millbrook Baptist Church. Congregants spilled onto the sidewalk after service, shaking hands and making plans for lunch. Elijah stood apart from the crowd, wearing his best slacks and a pressed shirt that Maya had ironed for him the night before. Jordan appeared at his elbow, nervously scanning the faces around them. "She's over there," he whispered, nodding toward a woman in her 40s, standing alone by a blue sedan. "That's Mrs. Price." The woman looked fragile, like someone who had been carrying a heavy weight for too long. Her Sunday dress was neat but inexpensive. Dark circles under her eyes suggested sleepless nights. When she noticed Jordan walking toward her with Elijah, she took a half-step backward. "Mrs. Price," Jordan said gently. "This is Mr. Brooks, the one I told you about." Elijah approached slowly, keeping his hands visible and his voice soft. "Good morning, ma'am. I'm sorry to bother you on the Lord's Day." She looked at him with frightened eyes. "I can't talk to you. I already told Jordan that. Please leave me alone." "I understand your concern," Elijah said. "I'm not here to cause trouble for your family. You don't understand anything." Her voice cracked. "You have no idea what these people are capable of, what they'll do to protect themselves." Jordan stepped closer. "Mrs. Price, other kids are getting hurt, just like Caleb did." "Stop!" She held up her hand. "Don't say his name out here. Not where people can hear." Elijah studied her face. This wasn't just fear. This was terror. Someone had made her afraid to even speak her son's name in public. "Ma'am, I spent 30 years in the Marines," he said quietly. "I know what it looks like when good people are being bullied into silence." Mrs. Price's composure cracked slightly. "You think this is about being brave? You think I should just stand up and speak out because it's the right thing to do?" "I think you're already being brave," Elijah replied, "just by getting up every morning and taking care of your boy after what happened to him." Tears welled up in her eyes. She glanced around nervously, making sure no one was close enough to overhear. "They said if I talked, they'd sue us for defamation. Said they had video of Caleb starting the fight himself." "Did he start the fight?" Elijah asked. "He's 15 years old," she whispered. He weighed 130 pounds. Trevor Vance is a grown man. How could my baby start anything with him? Jordan's hands clenched into fists. Tell him what really happened. Mrs. Price shook her head frantically. I can't. The settlement papers. What settlement papers? Elijah asked. She looked around again, then leaned closer. After Caleb got hurt, the woman who owns the place, Dana, she came to the hospital, brought lawyers, said it was just an accident during training, but she felt bad for us. Offered money for his medical bills if we signed something. What kind of something? A non-disclosure agreement. We can't talk about what happened at Iron Way. Can't post about it online. Can't tell other parents. Her voice dropped to barely a whisper. Can't even tell the truth if someone asks us directly. Elijah felt his anger building, but he kept his voice level. How badly was Caleb hurt? Mrs. Price's tears started falling. Concussion. Severe one. The doctors said another few minutes without treatment, and he could have... She couldn't finish the sentence. Where was he when this happened? On the mat. In front of everyone. Trevor was doing one of his live stream things, showing off for the cameras. He called Caleb up and said he was going to demonstrate an advanced takedown. Caleb tried to say he wasn't ready, that he was just a beginner, but Trevor laughed at him. Jordan's voice was tight with rage. He made fun of him for being scared. Trevor threw him down hard, Mrs. Price continued. Caleb's head hit the floor. He didn't get up right away, but Trevor just kept filming, making jokes about how kids today are soft. It wasn't until Caleb started throwing up that anyone realized something was really wrong. A car door slammed nearby, and Mrs. Price jumped. Maya was walking toward them from the parking lot, still wearing her scrubs from the night shift at the hospital. Sorry I'm late, Maya called out as she approached. Traffic from the hospital was... She stopped when she saw Mrs. Price's tears. Oh, I didn't know you were in the middle of something. Maya, this is Mrs. Price, Elijah said. Her son was hurt at Iron Way. Maya's expression shifted immediately into her professional nurse mode. Are you all right, honey? Mrs. Price wiped her eyes quickly. I shouldn't be talking about this. I need to go. Wait, Maya said gently. I work in the ER. I've seen what happens when people stay quiet about abuse. It doesn't protect anyone. It just lets the abusers find new victims. You don't understand, Mrs. Price said. They have lawyers, real lawyers. Not the kind I can afford. Maya looked at Elijah with concern. Elijah, if they're threatening legal action, let them come, Elijah said firmly. Truth needs witnesses. Across town, Trevor Vance stood outside Iron Way Martial Arts Academy with his phone camera pointed at himself. The afternoon sun cast harsh shadows across his face as he recorded another angry video. So the old man thinks he can hide behind churches and kids now, Trevor sneered at the camera. Elijah Brooks, if you're watching this, you know where to find me. Stop sending teenagers to do your talking and face me like a man. He stepped closer to the lens, his voice growing more aggressive. You want to destroy my reputation? You want to spread lies about what happens at my academy? Then, come prove it. But we both know you won't, because you're just a bitter old fool trying to steal attention from people who actually matter. Trevor ended the recording and immediately posted it to all his social media accounts. Within minutes, comments started pouring in from his followers, egging him on and demanding the rematch. Back at the church, Mrs. Price fumbled in her purse with shaking hands. She pulled out a folded piece of paper, worn from being handled too many times. This is his hospital discharge summary, she whispered, pressing it into Elijah's palm. I kept a copy before the lawyers made me give them everything else. Elijah unfolded it carefully. The medical terminology was clinical, but the severity was unmistakable. severe concussion, extended observation, cognitive rest prescribed for weeks. Mrs. Price leaned closer, her voice barely audible. There are more families. Other kids who got hurt and scared into silence. She handed him the paper and whispered, "There are more families." Sunday afternoon brought a gentle warmth to Millbrook Community Park. Elijah sat at a weathered picnic table under the shade of an old oak tree, watching Maya spread out a small blanket for the papers they'd brought. Jordan paced nervously nearby, checking his phone every few seconds. "They'll come," Jordan said for the third time. Mrs. Henderson promised she'd be here. Maya looked up from organizing the documents. "Elijah, are you sure this is the right approach? Meeting in public like this?" "Better than hiding," Elijah replied. "Truth doesn't grow in shadows." A silver Honda pulled into the parking lot. An elderly woman with careful steps approached their table, followed by a younger man carrying a manila folder. "Mr. Brooks?" The woman's voice was steady but cautious. "I'm Ruth Henderson. This is my nephew David." Elijah stood and offered his hand. "Thank you for coming, Mrs. Henderson." She sat across from him, her posture rigid with years of practiced dignity. "Jordan said you wanted to hear about what happened to me at Iron Way." "Only if you're comfortable sharing," Elijah said. Mrs. Henderson's eyes hardened. "Comfortable? No. But necessary." "Yes." She opened her purse and pulled out a folded piece of paper. "I joined Iron Way 6 months ago. My doctor said martial arts might help with my balance and strength after my hip replacement." David leaned forward protectively. "Aunt Ruth, you don't have to." "Yes, I do." Mrs. Henderson's voice cut sharp. "Trevor Vance humiliated me in front of the entire class. Called me Grandma Shuffles when I couldn't keep up with the younger students. Said maybe I should try water aerobics instead of real fighting." Maya's face flushed with anger. "He said that to you." "Worse," Mrs. Henderson continued. "He filmed it. Made jokes about how seniors think they can learn martial arts. The whole class laughed along because they were scared not to." Jordan stopped pacing. "Did Dana know?" "She was right there," David said bitterly. "Watched the whole thing happen and never said a word. When my aunt complained, Dana offered her a partial refund if she'd sign something saying she left voluntarily." "I kept the paperwork," Mrs. Henderson said, sliding the document toward Elijah. "I may be old, but I'm not stupid." Another car pulled up. A woman in her 30s got out with a teenage boy who kept his right arm close to his body. "That's Mrs. Murphy," Jordan whispered, "and her son, Kevin." The Murphy family approached slowly. Kevin's mother looked exhausted, like someone who'd been fighting an impossible battle for too long. "Kevin, tell them what happened," Mrs. Murphy said gently. The boy's voice was barely audible. "Trevor made me spar against an adult. Said it would toughen me up for the cameras. When I said I didn't want to, he called me a coward in front of everyone." Kevin rolled up his sleeve, revealing a thick brace on his wrist. "He broke my wrist during the training. Then Dana said it was just an accident, and that real martial artists learn to handle injuries." Maya reached across the table instinctively. "May I?" Kevin nodded and extended his arm. Maya examined the brace with professional care. "This wasn't properly treated initially," she said, her voice tight with controlled anger. "The bone alignment is off. This should have been seen by an orthopedic specialist immediately." Mrs. Murphy's hands trembled. "Dana said we were overreacting, that kids get hurt in sports all the time. She offered to pay for the medical bills if we didn't make a fuss." "Did you accept?" Elijah asked quietly. "We were scared," Mrs. Murphy admitted. "Dana showed us legal papers. Said if we spread false claims about the academy, they'd sue us for defamation." Jordan finally sat down, his face pale. "There's something else you need to know. Trevor records everything during classes. The humiliating stuff, the injuries. all of it. But he edits the videos before posting them online, keeps the parts that make him look good, deletes anything that shows how cruel he really is. You've seen him do this? Maya asked. I helped him sometimes, Jordan said, shame thick in his voice. Before I understood what was really happening. He has hours of footage stored on his computers, stuff that would destroy his reputation if anyone saw it. David Henderson leaned forward. Can we get access to those files? Not legally, Elijah said. Not without a court order. Mrs. Henderson stood up abruptly. Then we go to the police. We go to the media. We make enough noise that someone has to listen. With what proof? Mrs. Murphy asked desperately. It's our word against theirs. They have money, lawyers, influence. We're just regular people. The group fell silent. The weight of their situation pressed down on the picnic table like storm clouds gathering overhead. There has to be something we can do, Jordan said. There is, Elijah replied. We document everything. We gather every witness, every piece of evidence, every story. We build a case so strong that money and lawyers won't matter. Mrs. Henderson sat back down slowly. And if they come after us? If Trevor's followers start targeting our families? Before anyone could answer, Jordan's phone buzzed. Then Maya's. Then David's. Jordan's face went white as he read his screen. Oh no. What is it? Elijah asked. Jordan turned his phone around. Trevor had posted another video, this time featuring a screenshot of their group at the picnic table. Looks like the old fraud is recruiting his army of liars. Trevor's voice played from the speaker. These people will say anything to get their settlement money. But I've got lawyers too, and they don't like defamation. The comments below the video were already filling with angry messages from Trevor's followers, some of them identifying Mrs. Henderson and Mrs. Murphy by name. Maya grabbed Elijah's arm. This is escalating too fast. Maybe we should— No, Mrs. Henderson said firmly. I didn't survive 73 years to be bullied by some arrogant boy with a camera. But as they packed up their papers and prepared to leave, each of them felt the cold weight of what they'd started. The real battle was just beginning. That evening, the retaliation began in earnest. Elijah's phone buzzed constantly with unknown numbers calling him every name Trevor's followers could think of. The messages came in waves, each one more vicious than the last. Old man thinks he's tough. Washed-up Marine looking for attention? Hope you die alone, loser. Maya sat beside him in his small apartment, watching his phone light up with each new notification. Turn it off, she said. Just turn it off. Elijah set the phone aside, but they both knew the harassment wouldn't stop there. Around 9 o'clock, Maya looked out the window and gasped. Elijah, come here. He walked to the window and felt his chest tighten. Someone had spray-painted fraud across the side of his truck in bold red letters. Maya's voice cracked. This is getting dangerous. These people know where you live now. They could do anything. Elijah stared at the vandalism, his jaw set firm. They want me scared. Well, I'm scared, Maya said. And you should be too. This isn't just about you anymore. Jordan's family could get hurt. Mrs. Henderson could be targeted. Are you willing to put all these people at risk for your pride? The question hung in the air like a physical weight. Elijah had asked himself the same thing a dozen times already. Maybe you're right, he said quietly. Maybe this has gone far enough. A soft knock interrupted them. Elijah opened the door to find Jordan standing in the hallway, his eyes red-rimmed and desperate. I saw your truck, Jordan said. This is my fault. I should have stayed quiet. I should have minded my own business like everyone else. The boy's voice broke completely. Now, Mrs. Henderson is getting harassing phone calls. Kevin Murphy's mom is afraid to leave her house, all because I couldn't keep my mouth shut. Elijah looked at Jordan's face, saw the guilt eating him alive, and made his decision. "Jordan," he said firmly, "look at me." The boy raised his head. "This isn't your fault. This is what bullies do when they're cornered. They lash out. They try to make good people feel guilty for speaking truth." Maya stepped closer. "Elijah, think about what you're saying." But Elijah was already moving toward his closet, pulling out a bucket and some rags. "Where are you going?" Maya asked. "To wash my truck," Elijah replied. "And tomorrow, we do this properly." He walked out into the parking lot under the harsh fluorescent lights, Jordan following close behind. The red paint was still wet, running in ugly streaks down the white metal. As Elijah scrubbed the vandalism away, Jordan stood watch beside him. "Tomorrow, we do this properly," Elijah repeated, his voice carrying the weight of a promise that couldn't be broken. Monday morning light filtered through the thin curtains of Elijah's apartment at Magnolia Arms. He sat at his small kitchen table, surrounded by handwritten notes and printed emails from the families who had contacted him over the weekend. The coffee maker gurgled in the background as he organized witness statements into neat piles. Maya arrived at 7:30, still wearing her hospital scrubs from the night shift. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, but she carried 2 steaming cups of coffee and a bag of donuts from the gas station. "You looked like you didn't sleep," she said, setting the coffee beside his elbow. "Had work to do." Elijah gestured at the papers spread across the table. "Mrs. Henderson sent me contact information for 3 more families, all with similar stories." Maya picked up one of the handwritten notes and read it silently. Her expression grew darker with each line. "This boy was only 14, she whispered. "Trevor made him spar against a 20-year-old for the cameras." "Dana called it character building," Elijah replied. "The parents complained, but she offered them free classes to keep quiet." Maya sat down across from him, her coffee untouched. "Elijah, this is bigger than we thought. If there are this many incidents, there might be criminal charges involved. Shouldn't we be talking to the police instead of collecting statements ourselves?" Elijah pulled out his phone and scrolled to a contact he hadn't called in months. "I need to talk to someone first. Someone who understands how to fight battles the right way." He dialed the number and waited. After 3 rings, a gruff voice answered. "Brooks, you old devil. I saw the video. Figured I'd be hearing from you eventually. Ray." Elijah felt his shoulders relax for the first time in days. "I need advice." "About time. Give me 20 minutes. "I'll be right over." Sergeant Ray Dunlap arrived exactly 20 minutes later, wearing faded jeans and a Marine Corps Veterans Association t-shirt. He was Elijah's age, but built like a brick wall, with calloused hands and sharp gray eyes that missed nothing. Ray hugged Maya like family, then studied the papers on Elijah's table with military precision. "Hell, Brooks, you've got enough evidence here to shut down half the gyms in Georgia." He picked up Mrs. Henderson's statement and shook his head. "But collecting witness statements isn't the same as building a legal case. You know that, right?" "I know it," Elijah said. "But someone needs to organize the truth before it gets buried." Ray leaned back in his chair and studied his old friend carefully. "You sure this is about protection and not payback?" "Because that video made you look like a hero, and heroes sometimes get addicted to the spotlight." Maya nodded in agreement. "Ray's right. You've been different since Friday night. More energetic, more focused. Are you sure you're doing this for the right reasons?" Elijah met both their gazes steadily. "When I was overseas, we had a saying, protect the mission, protect each other. These kids are the mission now. Trevor is hurting them. Dana is covering it up. If I don't act, who will?" Ray's expression softened. "Fair enough. But pride can ruin a righteous cause faster than bullets ruin body armor. You need to fight smart, not hard. That's why I called you." After Maya left for her shift at the hospital, Ray helped Elijah organize the statements into a proper timeline. They worked in comfortable silence, occasionally sharing memories of their Marine days when organization meant the difference between life and death. Around 3 o'clock, Jordan knocked on the door. He looked exhausted from a full day of classes, but carried his backpack like it contained treasure. "I brought more evidence," Jordan said, unzipping the bag. "Screenshots, deleted posts, everything I could find." The three of them spread the new materials across Elijah's living room floor, marking every injury, deleted video, and complaint with colored pens on a large piece of poster board. "Here's the pattern," Ray pointed to the timeline. "Trevor escalates right before Dana's sponsor meetings. The worse the injury, the bigger the payout to keep families quiet." Maya returned from her shift around 6 and found them hunched over the evidence board like generals planning an invasion. She watched Elijah stand up from the floor and noticed him favor his right leg. "How long have you been limping?" she asked. "I'm fine." "That's not what I asked." Her voice carried the authority of someone used to patients who lied about their pain. "When was your last medical appointment?" Elijah avoided her eyes. "I've been busy." Maya checked her phone and found his missed appointment reminder from the previous Thursday. "You skipped Dr. Martinez? Again?" "It can wait." "No, it can't." Maya's voice rose. "You're 60 years old with combat injuries and arthritis. Your tremors are getting worse. I've watched you grip your coffee cup with both hands to keep it steady." Jordan looked between them, sensing the tension. Ray set down his pen and watched Elijah carefully. "My body doesn't get to decide my usefulness," Elijah said quietly. "Not when kids are getting hurt." "Your body keeps you alive," Maya shot back. "Without it, you can't help anyone." Before the argument could continue, Jordan suddenly straightened up from his position on the floor. He was holding his laptop, staring at the screen with wide eyes. "I found something," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Look at this old Iron Way live stream thumbnail." He turned the laptop toward them. The image showed Trevor mid-kick during a sparring demonstration. But in the blurred background, barely visible behind Trevor's shoulder, a smaller figure was collapsing to the mat. "That's Caleb," Jordan breathed. "Caleb Price falling down. This proves the whole thing was filmed." Monday evening at Millbrook Public Library felt like enemy territory. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead while Elijah and Jordan hunched over two public computers in the back corner, away from the curious stares of college students and evening visitors. Jordan's fingers moved across the keyboard with the speed of someone who had grown up online. "Most people don't know that live stream clips get automatically cached on backup servers," he explained, pulling up a complex web interface. "Even when Trevor deletes the original videos, pieces survive in other places." Elijah watched the screen intently, trying to follow Jordan's navigation through forums, mirror sites, and social media archives. The boy moved through digital spaces like Elijah once moved through hostile territory. Carefully, purposefully, always watching for traps. "There," Jordan whispered, pointing at a thumbnail image. Someone reposted a 15-second clip from Trevor's deleted live stream. "Look at the date. That's the day Caleb got hurt." The video quality was poor, compressed through multiple uploads and downloads, but the audio was clear enough to make Elijah's jaw tighten with anger. Trevor's voice came through the small computer speakers. "Come on, Caleb! You're embarrassing yourself in front of everyone. Maybe martial arts isn't for soft kids like you." The camera showed Caleb, a thin 15-year-old with nervous energy, backing away from Trevor's aggressive advance. The boy's face was flushed with humiliation and fear. "I don't want to spar today," Caleb said quietly. "My head still hurts from last week." Trevor laughed cruelly. "Your head hurts? What are you, 5 years old? Get on the mat, or find a new gym." Jordan paused the video and pointed to the background. Through the office window, Dana Whitfield stood watching the entire exchange. Her arms were crossed, and she made no move to intervene as Trevor continued his verbal assault. "She's not just ignoring it," Elijah said, his voice tight with controlled rage. "She's watching it happen." Jordan restarted the clip. Trevor shoved Caleb toward the center of the mat, then immediately launched into an advanced combination that the teenager had no chance of defending against. The final frames showed Caleb crumpling to the ground, his head striking the mat with a sickening thud. The video ended abruptly. "Dana didn't just cover up the abuse afterward," Elijah said, staring at the frozen screen. "She witnessed the whole thing and let it happen." Jordan's hands shook as he copied the video file to a flash drive. "This changes everything. She can't claim she didn't know if we have proof she was watching." They worked quickly to download additional cached files, screenshots, comments, partial videos that had been mirrored before Trevor's deletion spree. Each piece of evidence painted a clearer picture of systematic abuse disguised as training. The library's closing announcement echoed through the building as they packed up their materials. Jordan tucked the flash drive into his backpack like it contained nuclear codes. "We need to get this to the right people," Elijah said as they walked toward the exit. "Police first, then maybe a lawyer who specializes in—" The automatic doors slid open, and Elijah stopped mid-sentence. Trevor Vance stood in the parking lot between two older men Elijah didn't recognize. Both looked like former students, built thick and aggressive, wearing Ironway Academy shirts that stretched tight across their chests. "Well, well," Trevor called out with a twisted smile. "Look who's been playing detective." Jordan instinctively moved closer to Elijah, but tried to project confidence he clearly didn't feel. "We're just leaving, Trevor. Move out of the way." "I don't think so." Trevor stepped forward, his companions flanking him like backup dancers. "See? Word gets around when people start asking questions about our academy. Makes us curious about what you two think you're doing." The parking lot was nearly empty except for a few cars belonging to library staff. Security cameras mounted on light poles recorded everything, but Elijah knew how easily footage could be edited or misinterpreted. "We're not doing anything illegal," Jordan said, his voice stronger than Elijah expected. Trevor laughed harshly. "Illegal? Like sneaking around, harassing our former students, trying to destroy people's livelihoods with lies." "Nobody's lying about anything," Elijah said calmly, positioning himself slightly in front of Jordan. "The truth doesn't need sneaking around." "The truth?" Trevor's face darkened with rage. "The truth is, you're a bitter old man who can't accept that his 15 minutes of internet fame are over." One of Trevor's companions cracked his knuckles loudly. "Maybe he needs another lesson in respecting his betters." "Back off," Jordan said, surprising everyone with his fierce tone. "Leave him alone." Trevor's attention snapped to Jordan like a predator spotting wounded prey. In 3 quick steps, he closed the distance and shoved Jordan hard against the side of a parked sedan. "You little snitch," Trevor snarled, pressing Jordan against the car door. "What's on that flash drive you think you're hiding?" Jordan's backpack was pinned between his body and the vehicle. Trevor reached for the zipper, his face inches from Jordan's. "Give me the drive, and maybe I forget about this whole thing." Elijah moved without thinking. He stepped between Trevor and Jordan, his presence forcing Trevor to release his grip or collide with him directly. "Step away from the boy," Elijah said quietly. Trevor backed up half a step, but his eyes burned with fury. "Or what, old man? You gonna attack me again like the crazy veteran everyone says you are?" "I'm not attacking anyone," Elijah replied, keeping his voice steady. "I'm asking you to leave him alone. I don't take orders from washed-up Marines who think they're still fighting wars that ended decades ago." Trevor swung hard, aiming a right hook directly at Elijah's face. Elijah's reaction was pure muscle memory. Block, redirect, control. He caught Trevor's wrist, turned it slightly, and applied just enough pressure to lock the joint without causing injury. Trevor found himself bent forward, his arm extended and completely controlled. "Let go of me!" Trevor shouted, his voice carrying across the parking lot. The library's automatic doors burst open as two security guards rushed outside, attracted by the commotion. Behind them, several library patrons and staff members gathered to watch. Elijah immediately released Trevor and stepped back, hands visible and empty. Trevor straightened up, rubbing his wrist dramatically, and turned toward the growing crowd of witnesses with a satisfied smile. "Now I've got witnesses saying you attacked me again." The Millbrook Veterans Hall smelled like old coffee and floor wax, but Elijah had never felt more hopeful walking into a meeting. Tuesday morning sunlight streamed through tall windows as folding chairs filled with familiar faces. Maya sat beside him, still in her scrubs from the night shift. Jordan clutched a notebook full of carefully written talking points. Ray Dunlap stood near a portable whiteboard, pointing at a hand-drawn timeline of events. "The self-defense fundraiser is brilliant," said Mrs. Price, Caleb's mother. "Seniors and teenagers learning together. It shows what Ironway should have been." "Channel 7 wants to interview you this afternoon," added Mr. Rodriguez, whose daughter quit Ironway after Trevor mocked her accent. "The reporter says this story represents everything good about standing up to bullies." Jordan raised his hand nervously. "I want to speak at the fundraiser. Tell people what really happened to students like Caleb." Elijah nodded with quiet pride. "You sure about that? Once you go public, there's no taking it back." "I'm sure," Jordan said, his voice stronger than Elijah had ever heard it. "People need to know Trevor hurt kids for internet views." Ray tapped the whiteboard with a marker. "We've got the Veterans Hall reserved for Saturday. Local businesses donated equipment. 3 martial arts schools offered instructors. The mayor's office sent a letter of support." "How much money are we talking about?" Maya asked. "Enough to fund free classes for 6 months," Mrs. Price replied. "Plus, scholarships for kids who can't afford private lessons." For the first time in years, Elijah felt like he was part of something meaningful again. The weight of grief and isolation seemed lighter, surrounded by people who believed in fighting for what was right. His phone buzzed, then Maya's, then Jordan's. Ray frowned at his screen. Channel 7 just canceled the interview. "Why?" Jordan asked. Elijah's phone rang. He recognized the number from the Veterans Hall office. "Mr. Brooks," the clerk said nervously. "I'm sorry, but we have to cancel your event permit." "What happened?" "City Legal says there are safety concerns. Something about pending police investigations." The room fell silent as Elijah ended the call. Maya's phone buzzed with a text. She read it and went pale. "The hospital administration wants to see me tomorrow morning. Someone filed a complaint saying I'm associated with a person under investigation for assault." "This is Dana," Ray said grimly. "She's using lawyers to destroy us." Jordan's phone rang. His mother's name appeared on the screen. "Mom?" Jordan answered, putting it on speaker without thinking. "Jordan Miguel Ramirez, where are you right now?" His mother's voice was sharp with panic. "I'm at the Veterans Hall with—" "Get home immediately. Do not speak to anyone. Do not go near that man again." "Mom, you don't understand. A police detective called me an hour ago. They said you're mixed up with someone who threatens children and assaults instructors. You're grounded indefinitely." The call ended. Jordan stared at his silent phone, his newfound courage crumbling. "She won't listen to me. She's scared." Mrs. Price stood up slowly. "I'm sorry, Elijah, but if police are investigating, I can't let Caleb get involved. We already settled with Ironway." One by one, parents made excuses and left. The bright morning energy drained from the room like air from a punctured balloon. Ray gathered his papers with military precision. "They hit us with everything at once. Classic intimidation campaign. Maya waited until they were alone before confronting Elijah in the parking lot. "You missed 2 medical appointments," she said quietly. "Your knee is getting worse. You barely slept last night. And now you're risking my job and Jordan's future." "Maya, I didn't ask for any of this." "Yes, you did." Her composure finally broke. "You walked into that gym carrying 3 years of grief and guilt, looking for a fight to make you feel alive again?" Elijah stared at her, shocked by the raw truth in her words. "You think I don't see it?" Maya continued, tears starting. "You think fighting bullies will somehow fix what happened with Marcus? Don't bring Marcus into this. He's already in it. Everything you do is about him." Maya's voice cracked. "You still blame yourself for that stupid argument you had the night before he died." Elijah felt something shatter inside his chest. The careful control he maintained for months finally collapsed. "He died thinking I was disappointed in him," Elijah whispered. "My last words to my son were angry words about him missing family dinner for overtime shifts." Maya softened, reaching for his arm. "Elijah, I told him he was making excuses, that he put work before family." His voice broke completely. 8 hours later, he ran into a burning building to save strangers and never came out. The parking lot was empty except for their 2 vehicles. Maya pulled Elijah into a fierce hug, while he shook with suppressed sobs. "He knew you loved him," she whispered. "He knew." But Elijah couldn't hear her over the roar of his own guilt. Late Tuesday night at Magnolia Arms, Elijah sat alone at his small kitchen table. Marcus's photo lay beside his Marine medals, the Silver Star, Purple Heart, and Combat Action Ribbon he had earned across 3 deployments. All of it felt hollow now. Wednesday morning arrived gray and cold outside Magnolia Arms. Jordan sat on the concrete steps leading to Elijah's apartment, his backpack clutched tight against his chest. His phone buzzed with angry texts from his mother, but he ignored them all. The apartment door opened above him. Elijah stepped out, moving slower than usual, his face drawn with exhaustion. "Your mother will call the police," Elijah said quietly. "Let her!" Jordan stood up, his young voice steady with determination. "Marcus wouldn't want you hiding from bullies." The mention of his son's name hit Elijah like a physical blow. He gripped the metal railing to steady himself. "Don't talk about Marcus." "Why not?" Jordan's eyes blazed with the kind of righteous anger that reminded Elijah of his younger self. "He was a firefighter. He saved people. You think he'd want you to quit just because some rich woman and her pet bully are lying about you?" Before Elijah could respond, Maya's sedan pulled into the parking lot. She stepped out wearing scrubs from her overnight shift, her face tired but resolute. "I figured I'd find you here," she said to Jordan. "Mrs. Brooks, I know you're mad, but—" "I'm not mad." Maya climbed the steps slowly, her nurse's instincts reading both their faces. "I'm worried. About both of you." She sat down beside Jordan on the concrete step, leaving room for Elijah. "Your mother called me 3 times last night," Maya continued. "She's scared because she loves you, but hiding won't make this go away." Elijah remained standing, his jaw tight. "Maya, I can't drag you into this anymore. My fight shouldn't cost you your job or Jordan his future." "It's not just your fight," Maya said firmly. "It never was." A second vehicle pulled into the lot, Ray's old pickup truck. The retired sergeant stepped out with 2 other men Elijah recognized from veterans' meetings. They walked over with the careful bearing of soldiers who had seen enough battles to know which ones mattered. "Heard you could use some backup," Ray said simply. The taller veteran extended his hand. "Tom Martinez, military police for 20 years. Retired now, but I still know procedure." The second man nodded. "Bill Crawford. Used to work legal aid before my disability pension came through." Ray filled us in on the situation. Maya stood up, brushing dust from her scrubs. Elijah needs purpose, but he also needs help. He can't do this alone anymore. Ray pulled out a worn notebook and flipped it open. We've been thinking about this wrong. Dana's playing defense, trying to discredit you. But Friday night is Ironway's big sponsor showcase. She'll have investors, parents, and media watching. So? Elijah asked. So that's when we present the truth, Tom said. Not accusations, evidence. Real footage, sworn statements, documented injuries. Bill nodded. If we can prove she covered up Caleb's concussion and other incidents, it becomes criminal negligence. The sponsors will run. The academy closes. Jordan's eyes lit up. Trevor stores all his raw live stream files on an academy tablet. The stuff he edits out, the real footage showing him hurting students. It's all there. Ray leaned forward. Can you access it? Not me. But Nina Patel can. She used to edit Trevor's videos before she quit. She knows all his passwords and where everything's stored. Maya frowned. Who's Nina Patel? Former student. She's about 20 now, works part-time at a video editing company. Jordan's excitement grew. She hated what Trevor made her do, cutting out the parts where kids got hurt, making everything look safe and fun. She quit months ago, but she kept backups of some files on her personal drive. Elijah felt something stir in his chest. Not the burning anger that had driven him before, but something calmer and more focused. This isn't about revenge, he said slowly. It's about protection. Exactly, Ray confirmed. We gather unedited evidence. We secure sworn statements from witnesses. And we present everything at the showcase when Dana can't control the narrative. Tom pulled out his phone. I can draft formal witness statements that hold up legally. Parents will be more likely to sign something official. Bill added, and I can make sure we follow proper channels. No vigilante stuff that Dana can use against us. Maya looked at Elijah carefully. You sure you can handle this? Physically and emotionally? Elijah thought of Marcus. Not the angry last conversation, but the proud young man who had run toward danger to save others. Yes, he said finally, but we do this right. Through truth, not revenge. Ray closed his notebook with satisfaction. Then we're going to need that flash drive and Nina Patel's cooperation. Jordan shouldered his backpack eagerly. I know where she lives. She's been waiting for someone to stand up to them. The group gathered their resolve like soldiers preparing for a mission. Maya grabbed her purse from the car. Ray double-checked his notebook. Tom and Bill exchanged the kind of look veterans shared before important operations. Elijah descended the steps slowly, his knee protesting but his purpose restored. The group left Magnolia Arms together, carrying the flash drive and a handwritten list of witnesses heading toward Nina's house and what they hoped would be their final chance at justice. Nina Patel's small house sat in a quiet neighborhood just 6 blocks from Iron Way, close enough that the sound of evening training sessions sometimes drifted through her bedroom window. She answered the door wearing paint-stained jeans and a cautious expression that softened when she recognized Jordan. I wondered when someone would finally come, she said, stepping aside to let the group enter. Her living room doubled as a home office, with multiple monitors, hard drives, and editing equipment scattered across 2 desks. Nina was thin and sharp-eyed, with the focused energy of someone who spent long hours perfecting digital details. Jordan told us you might still have access to Trevor's files, Elijah said gently. Nina's jaw tightened. Dana ordered me to delete everything that made the academy look bad. Injuries, verbal abuse, unsafe drills, anything that might scare sponsors away. But I kept backup links because I knew someday they'd try to blame me for covering up their mess. She gestured toward her main computer. Trevor syncs everything to a cloud account automatically. The Academy tablet does too. He thinks he's the only one with access, but I helped set up the whole system. Ray pulled out his notebook. Can you show us what you found? More than you're expecting, Nina said grimly. She sat at her computer and began typing. Trevor doesn't just hurt students by accident. He targets specific people on purpose because humiliation videos get better engagement than regular training clips. The first file she opened made Jordan's face go pale. Trevor stood in the center of the Iron Way mat, speaking directly to his phone camera while students warmed up behind him. "Tonight I'm gonna find some fresh meat," Trevor's recorded voice said with a cruel grin. "Old people, scared kids, anyone who looks weak. The internet loves watching bullies get what they deserve, but they love watching fake tough guys get humbled even more." Maya's hand covered her mouth. "He's planning it." Nina clicked to another file. This one showed Trevor practicing his fake injury routine after sparring sessions, rolling on the ground and groaning dramatically, while Dana watched from the office doorway. "This was 2 months ago," Nina explained. "He'd been getting complaints about being too rough, so Dana told him to act hurt whenever someone fought back. Make the other person look like the aggressor." Elijah watched silently, his hands resting calmly on his knees, but his eyes burned with controlled fury. The worst clip came next. Trevor stood over a teenage boy who was clearly dazed and struggling to stand after a hard takedown. Instead of helping, Trevor kept filming. "Come on, champ," Trevor's voice taunted from the speakers. "Get up and show everyone you're not a quitter." The camera's still rolling. "That's Caleb," Jordan whispered, right before his concussion. In the background of the video, Dana's office window showed her silhouette watching the entire scene unfold. When Caleb finally collapsed, she disappeared from view instead of rushing to help. Nina's fingers moved quickly across the keyboard. There's more. Trevor bragging about making seniors quit. Dana coaching him on legal language to avoid lawsuits. Her telling him to target people who won't fight back in court. Ray took detailed notes, while Tom and Bill studied each file with the methodical attention of men who understood evidence chains. Maya pulled out her phone. "I'm calling Rebecca Martinez," she said. "She's a reporter at Channel 7. I helped her daughter in the ER last year, and she owes me a favor." "Good thinking," Ray said. "We need media present when this comes out." Nina opened the Academy's event calendar on another screen. The showcase is Friday night. Dana's invited 3 major sponsors, the City Council and half the police force for crowd control. She's planning to use Elijah's controversy as proof that Iron Way maintains discipline and safety. Elijah finally spoke. She's going to be disappointed. "This is perfect timing," Tom added. "Public venue, official witnesses, sponsors already concerned about their reputation." Nina began organizing files into folders labeled with timestamps and witness names. Each clip was more damning than the last. Trevor mocking elderly members until they quit. Dana instructing staff to hide injury reports. Raw footage of the takedown showing Trevor's aggressive approach and Elijah's defensive response. "How many files total?" Bill asked. 47 video clips, dozens of audio recordings, and email chains going back 8 months. Nina looked up from her screen with grim satisfaction. Plus, financial records showing hush money payments to at least 6 families. She hit print, and pages began emerging from her printer with methodical efficiency. File names, timestamps, witness identification, and legal evidence categories filled each sheet. Maya finished her phone call. Rebecca will be there Friday with a camera crew. She's very interested in a story about veteran discrimination and institutional cover-ups. Nina lifted the completed file index from her printer and held it like a weapon. "This doesn't just clear Elijah," she said quietly. "This buries them." Friday evening arrived with the kind of Georgia heat that made everything feel heavy and slow. Outside Iron Way Martial Arts Academy, bright yellow banners stretched between light poles, announcing the Community Safety and Discipline Showcase. Dana had spent serious money making the event look professional. Folding chairs filled the parking lot in neat rows. A small stage faced the academy's glass front, where the mats were visible through the windows. Cars kept pulling up, parents in their Friday night clothes. City council members checking their phones. 3 men in expensive suits who had to be the sponsors Dana was courting so desperately. Elijah sat quietly in Ray's truck, watching the crowd gather. His knee ached more than usual, but his hands were steady. Maya squeezed his shoulder from the back seat. "You sure about this?" she asked for the 3rd time since they'd left Magnolia Arms. "I'm sure," Elijah said. Behind them, Jordan fidgeted with a folder of sworn statements. Nina clutched her laptop bag like it contained nuclear codes. Mrs. Price stared at the academy windows, her jaw tight with the kind of anger that only comes from watching your child get hurt. 2 more cars pulled into the lot. Tom and Bill climbed out of one, wearing their dress uniforms. 3 more parents from their witness list emerged from the other vehicle. Ray checked his watch. 7 o'clock. Showtime. They walked across the parking lot in a loose group. Elijah moved slowly, but with the kind of presence that made people look twice. Dana spotted them immediately. Her smile faltered for just a moment before snapping back into place. "Mr. Brooks," she called out sweetly. "How nice that you decided to attend our community event." "Wouldn't miss it," Elijah replied. Dana's eyes swept over the group behind him. She recognized Mrs. Price, and her expression tightened slightly. "I hope everyone understands this is a private academy event." "It's a public showcase," Ray said calmly. "Says so right on your banners." Before Dana could respond, a white van pulled up with Channel 7 News logos on the sides. Rebecca Martinez stepped out with a cameraman, adjusting her blazer and checking her microphone. Dana's face went pale. "I wasn't aware media would be attending." "Community safety is always newsworthy," Rebecca said, walking directly to Maya. "Thank you for the tip about tonight's event." Dana had no choice but to smile and nod. Kicking out a news crew would look terrible in front of sponsors. She gestured toward the folding chairs with forced enthusiasm. "Please, everyone find seats. We'll be starting shortly." The group spread out strategically. Nina chose a seat near the back, with a clear view of the projection screen Dana had set up for sponsor advertisements. Ray and the veterans sat in the middle, their uniforms drawing respectful nods from other attendees. Jordan found a spot where he could move quickly if needed. Inside the academy, Trevor stretched and posed for the gathering crowd. He wore his black belt and a tight-fitting shirt that showed off his build. Parents pointed him out to their kids. The sponsors nodded approvingly at his presentation. Dana took the microphone and began her prepared speech about discipline, safety, and community values. She praised Ironway's commitment to proper training and student protection. Several times, she glanced nervously toward Elijah's group. "And now," Dana announced with theatrical enthusiasm, "our head instructor, Trevor Vance, will demonstrate the kind of precise, controlled technique that makes Ironway Academy a leader in martial arts education." Trevor stepped into the center of the mat space, soaking in the applause. He bowed to the audience, then launched into a series of flashy kicks and punches that drew impressed murmurs. Then he spotted Elijah. Trevor's routine stopped mid-kick. He walked directly to the microphone, his eyes locked on the older man in the 4th row. "Ladies and gentlemen," Trevor said, his voice carrying clearly through the speakers, "we have a special guest tonight. Some of you might have seen him on social media recently." The crowd shifted uncomfortably. Dana stepped toward Trevor, but he waved her away. "This is Mr. Brooks," Trevor continued, pointing directly at Elijah. "He likes to pretend he's some kind of hero, an old soldier trying to relive his glory days by picking fights with younger men." Elijah sat perfectly still, his face showing nothing. "But the truth is," Trevor's voice grew louder, more aggressive, He's just another bitter old man who can't accept that his time is over, who attacks instructors half his age because he's desperate for attention. Dana smiled, thinking Elijah had been cornered publicly with nowhere to run. Jordan's hands shook as he stood up at the edge of his folding chair. Every instinct told him to stay quiet, stay safe, stay invisible. But Nina was already moving. She slipped through the back rows with her laptop, heading for the projection booth Dana had set up behind the audience. Her fingers found the cable connections while Trevor continued his verbal assault. "So, Mr. Brooks," Trevor said into the microphone, "do you have anything to say for yourself? Any more lies about respect and honor?" Before Trevor could speak again, the large projection screen behind him flickered to life. The first image was crystal clear. Caleb Price on the academy mat, struggling to stand while Trevor filmed him. In the background, Dana's office window showed her silhouette watching the entire scene unfold without moving to help. The screen lit up with devastating clarity. The first clip showed Caleb Price stumbling backward after a vicious kick to his ribs. Trevor's voice came through the speakers. "Get up, crybaby. Real fighters don't quit." In the background, Dana stood in her office doorway, watching the 13-year-old struggle to breathe. She made no move to stop the drill. The crowd went dead silent. The second clip played automatically. Trevor faced an elderly woman in her 70s, mocking her stance while she tried to learn basic blocks. "Maybe you should stick to knitting, Grandma. This is a place for warriors, not nursing home dropouts." Parents began shifting in their seats. Whispers started. The third clip destroyed any remaining doubt. Trevor sat in Dana's office, laughing as he scrolled through his phone. His voice was crystal clear. "These old losers are perfect content. They think they're tough, but one good shove and they fold like lawn chairs. The humiliation videos get triple the views of regular training footage." A mother in the front row stood up abruptly. "That's my son he's talking about." The fourth clip showed Dana herself, coaching Trevor after Elijah's takedown. "Act hurt longer. Limp when you walk. Make sure everyone sees you favoring that shoulder. We need him to look dangerous, not heroic." The sponsors stopped taking notes. Their faces turned stone cold. Trevor grabbed for the microphone, but his wireless pack had been disconnected. He shouted without amplification, "This is fake! Edited lies!" The fifth clip answered him perfectly. Raw footage from the Academy's own security system showed the complete confrontation with Elijah. Every second was visible. Trevor's shove, his aggressive posture, his wild swing. Then Elijah's calm response, measured and precise. No brutality, no revenge, just professional control. "This is not happening," Dana whispered, her face draining of color. The sixth clip played Trevor's voice from just 2 days earlier. "I'm gonna destroy that old bastard's reputation. These military has-beens think they deserve respect just for being ancient. Time to teach him what real fighting looks like." Parents erupted from their seats. "You filmed my daughter crying. That's assault. Where are the injury reports? You lied to us." The sponsors began packing their materials immediately. One businessman spoke into his phone. "Cancel everything with Ironway. Full withdrawal. Immediately." Dana pointed frantically at Nina, who stood calmly near the projection booth. "She hacked our systems. This is theft. Call security." But Ray had already moved. He approached the 2 police officers Dana had hired for crowd control, carrying a manila envelope thick with printed evidence. "Officers, we have documented proof of assault, fraud, and evidence tampering by the business owners." Dana saw the officers examining Ray's documents. She grabbed her purse and headed for the side exit, pushing through confused parents. Trevor's panic exploded into rage. He spotted Jordan near the mat and lunged forward, his face twisted with fury. "You little rat! You destroyed everything! Elijah rose smoothly from his chair and stepped directly into Trevor's path. "Move, old man!" Trevor screamed, throwing a wild haymaker at Elijah's head. The older Marine simply shifted his weight, letting Trevor's momentum carry him forward. Elijah caught the extended arm, turned slightly, and used Trevor's own force to guide him down onto the mat. No strikes, no violence, just perfect leverage and timing. Trevor hit the mat face first, his arm controlled but not twisted, his pride shattered completely. The crowd watched in absolute silence. Every parent, every student, every sponsor saw the unmistakable difference between Elijah's disciplined restraint and Trevor's wild brutality. "That," Elijah said calmly, not even breathing hard, "is what control looks like." Trevor struggled beneath him, cursing and threatening. Elijah held him firmly until the officers arrived. "Trevor Vance," the first officer announced, pulling out handcuffs, "you're under arrest for assault, endangering minors, and fraud." Dana watched from the doorway as the second officer confiscated her laptop and began collecting business records. Her carefully constructed empire was crumbling in real time, broadcast to a room full of witnesses who would never forget what they had seen. Saturday afternoon sunlight streamed through the tall windows of Millbrook Community Center as news vans lined the parking lot outside. Reporter voices echoed across the asphalt, updating viewers on the Ironway scandal that had exploded across social media overnight. Ironway Martial Arts Academy remains closed pending a full investigation, announced Channel 7's weekend anchor, standing before the shuttered building. Owner Dana Whitfield has been charged with evidence tampering, fraud, and endangering minors. Instructor Trevor Vance faces multiple assault complaints and has lost all remaining sponsorship deals. Inside the community center, a very different story was unfolding. The main hall buzzed with activity as dozens of folding chairs filled with an unlikely mix of people. Gray-haired veterans sat beside nervous teenagers. Parents clutched registration forms while seniors and walkers chatted with college students. The canceled fundraiser had been reinstated here, but it had grown into something much larger. Elijah stood near the front of the room, watching the crowd gather. His knee ached from the previous night's confrontation, but his posture remained straight. Maya approached from the registration table, carrying a clipboard thick with names. 62 people signed up already, she said, her voice filled with amazement. And more keep arriving. Ray Dunlap moved through the chairs, greeting veterans he recognized and introducing himself to families. His weathered face broke into grins as he shook hands with teenagers who had never spoken to a Marine before. "Never seen anything like this," Ray told Elijah. "Word spreads fast when people see real justice served." Jordan sat in the front row, his mother beside him. Mrs. Ramirez had arrived an hour early, her face drawn with emotion. She had spent the morning watching news coverage and reading online comments praising her son's courage. "Mr. Brooks," she said, rising from her chair and approaching Elijah, "I owe you an apology." Elijah turned toward her, his expression gentle. "No, ma'am. You don't owe me anything." "Yes, I do." Her voice trembled slightly. "I was scared. When Dana called and threatened lawsuits, when she said you were dangerous, I believed her. I stopped Jordan from seeing you because I thought I was protecting him." She glanced at Jordan, who nodded encouragingly. "But my son was already being protected. By you, and I was too frightened to see it." "Fear for your child is never wrong," Elijah replied. "You were being a good mother." Mrs. Ramirez extended her hand. "Jordan wants to keep training with you, if you'll have him. And I want to learn too, about standing up to bullies instead of running from them." Elijah shook her hand firmly. "We'll all learn together." Maya approached carrying a wrapped rectangular package. "Before we start, Jordan has something for you." Jordan jumped up, his nervousness replaced by excitement. He took the package and handed it to Elijah. "Open it." Elijah carefully unwrapped the brown paper, revealing a restored and professionally framed photograph. The image showed him and Marcus in their Marine dress uniforms, both young and proud, standing side by side at Marcus's graduation ceremony. "Jordan found it in your apartment," Maya explained softly. "He took it to a restoration shop downtown. The frame is from all of us here." Elijah stared at the photograph, his throat tight. The picture had been damaged in his grief-filled apartment, creased and faded from being handled too often. Now Marcus's smile was clear again, and Elijah's own younger face looked back at him with hope he had forgotten he once possessed. "Thank you," he whispered. Nina Patel raised her hand from the middle of the room. "Mr. Brooks," the city council called. "They want you to lead official workshops here every week. Free self-defense and confidence classes for seniors, teens, and anyone who needs them." The room erupted in applause. Elijah raised his hand for quiet, his voice steady when he spoke. "I accept, but understand something." He looked around the room, meeting eyes with teenagers, veterans, and parents. "This isn't about fighting. It's about respect. For yourself and others. It's about knowing you matter, no matter your age." He held up the restored photograph. "I still grieve my son. I probably always will. But I don't feel useless anymore. You've all shown me that purpose doesn't end when we get older. It just changes shape." The community center doors opened again, and an elderly man stepped hesitantly inside. He wore a faded cardigan and walked slowly with a cane. His eyes scanned the crowded room with uncertainty, and his shoulders hunched with embarrassment. Elijah noticed him immediately and walked toward the doorway with a gentle smile. "I hope you enjoyed that story. Please like the video and subscribe so that you do not miss out on the next one. In the meantime, I have handpicked 2 stories for you that I think you will enjoy. Have a great day.